Welcome to the YouTube video.
Wow, it's nice here. Wow, I really like it here.
Yeah.
Ugh, so much
good.
better. Yeah. Everything feels great. Feel nice and numb.
Right? I was going to say, you're feeling things. That's different.
We
Put
can
up
always,
the lights.
you can always escape into like the gateway back there if you need to. Too.
Right.
There's always a
Great.
gateway you can open to get somewhere. No, we have an episode to do.
I
You don't know
don't
if you can
care.
get
I
back.
could end up anywhere but here, and this place is about to explode in just a few seconds.
Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy!
So if it wasn't clear, we're recording this episode on November 4th.
When we still don't know the
Anything
results
could happen.
of the 2020 election.
We do know the results. Joe Biden will win with exactly
Yes.
270 electoral votes breaking through, and
We don't know
the
that!
Democrats won't get the Senate, which means that it's not
Oh,
really
no.
a change in
Oh,
power
God.
because we can't actually pass any legislation. But maybe we'll
Okay.
start dealing with the coronavirus starting on January 20th. I'm done. Let's talk about Star Trek.
I like how important it was you get that much in, just
Right.
that much.
I'm
You
trying
did it.
so hard.
You're doing fantastically.
Yeah. Well, I hope that. Well, then, if that prediction gets exactly right, you know exactly how many electoral votes he's going to get. That'd be pretty
Wow.
amazing. So we'll.
I've
we'll,
been
we'll
looking at
button
the
that.
map a lot. It's very possible we also get Pennsylvania and Georgia, but we don't need them.
I want Pennsylvania. I would appreciate getting Pennsylvania. Lock it in. Lock it in.
That's locked. This smile is locked.
Well, we just got done dealing with all of my technical mishaps. Now, granted, my room didn't like flip upside down, which would reverse, I guess, the gravity in this place. I'd be like,
Yeah.
You mean like an amazing carnival ride where it spins you a centrifugal force? What's the word? Centrifugal force. And then you stick to the outside.
yeah,
there's
except you're not
something
strapped in on this one.
There's something that prevents that on starships called an inertial dampener, which I guess the writers forgot about.
Or it turned off.
Or it was malfunctioning.
Or is malfunctioning.
That's what I thought it was, because the turbo lift's not going fast enough. Is it to really have that kind of velocity on the
Yeah.
ship? Maybe it
An
is.
To
inertial
get to the bridge
dampener
and
is
stuff.
also known as a seat belt. And just real quick, I just want to say we did not have straps to tie you down on the ride that does that in World of Fun in Kansas City. You're welcome.
But that's because
at
of
Bay
inertia,
Beach.
right?
Yeah.
Or the you were trying to say centrifuge, right? Which is what the apparatus that spins it.
Centrifugal.
No. The
What's the name of that
centrifuge-
called?
That is a centrifuge.
Yeah, but we're just flipping our fingers in a circle is all we're doing.
It's
for those of you that
it's
are-
a circular device that creates a gravity simulation by the centrifugal force.
Thank you, computer.
Yeah.
That was great.
No problem. It's used
That was
to
my
separate.
favorite.
Actually, centrifugal force is a thing.
It looks
Okay.
like that, but I'm
Oh,
pretty
no,
sure it's
you're right. Thank you. Yep. No, I pressed the dictionary, read this word out loud so I know what it sounds like button. And it's centrifugal,
yeah,
but there's a G in it.
right.
Just
Centrifugal.
Science, man, it's confusing.
Centrifugal.
it's
we all say
silent like
centrifugal.
in gnome. It's also silent G.
Or it becomes a C. It becomes
both
a
right.
really
It
hard
becomes a
G.
We're both right. I just replayed Dictionary Woman and she says centrifugal.
Right.
Oh,
Centrifugal.
But what does Dictionary Man do?
Burns in hell. Get him out of here. We don't need him. He doesn't read precisely enough with your right enunciation.
But what we
This
do need is another episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. That's
What is
right.
it, Phil?
It's Contagion. The Enterprise and a Romulan the Enterprise and a Romulan warbird are attacked by the same computer virus.
That's my nickname in high school.
The same computer virus?
Romulan warbird.
Oh.
Duh.
Hey, Romulan warbird, you want to go get a Coke later?
Oh, her cloaking device is on. She's gone.
I love her nickname. It really flows off the tongue nicely.
That's right. I went to school in Queens.
Where everybody was named after a sci-fi ship of some sort.
Right.
But we vacationed at Worlds of Fun in Kansas City.
Also, this, like, tying this back in, this is a very 90s grasp on, like, computer systems and viruses. And
I wrote that too.
Yeah.
Do you mean like the fact that they're like it's like
in
compartmentalized and stuff?
Yeah.
So like in the 80s and 90s, there was this idea that like if you could go into the computer physically, like some physical representation, it would be like a series of rooms or even like a city, right? You see this in, what was the movie? Like Hackers kind of had a visual thing like that. Tron had that. Johnny Mnemonic maybe had something like that, I think. But like this idea that the computer is, the inside of it is like a dimensional space that we can explore and move around. And therefore this virus, because it was placed...
Bonsai buddies there. For podcast listeners, Becca has just pulled up a screenshot. Do you want to share what you have?
You just solved so many things about that were lost in my mind palace about Bonsai Buddy. I couldn't remember his name to look up the song about a bicycle built for two. Thank you for that. Gonna do some Googling.
No problem.
So this is actually something Jake sent over. I was just screen sharing for courtesy. This is the Enterprise, but instead of the view screen, it has early 90s tabs and pop-ups, all of them.
They're the ones that, like, you can't remove from the browser.
Yeah, there are a bunch of toolbars that get added on if you download like the Yahoo companion. It's like, well, here's a bunch of search functions on your Internet Explorer browser now.
Oh no! So this is like Chrome extensions, but you can't turn them off. That
was a early malware. I mean, it wasn't always malware, but a lot of the times it was. Like you see how it says win a free lobster dinner, like that kind of shit.
Oh,
the worst is when it would be pornography, because then you really couldn't get it off, and like that happens to people a lot.
No incognito mode.
Right? This image too evokes another sense, because if you were a kid during this time, a lot of times you could just innocently click on anything and a billion things would pop up, things would download, and you have no idea until a parent came around and you had this exact face that Wesley's pulling. Like, hey,
it wasn't me. No,
anything.
I just wanted a free version of this game. I didn't know what this became. I'm so sorry. It said free. I got excited. But what I was saying is they have this idea that the inside of it is a dimensional space that like a virus or a computer program would need to quote unquote travel through. Therefore, it needs to like move through things as opposed to just going to a different directory, which is what we now know computers can.
I waffled back and forth between like, also it's their only comparison is to like a human body, and so they treat the ship like a human body, like, oh, the virus is in the heart, and so we got to isolate that. And I was like, not exactly how that works, but it could be so far in the future that is how it works.
Maybe they reorganize it that way. Well, the malfunctions happen all over the ship. In fact, let's begin at the beginning of this episode where we are en route to rendezvous with the Yamato, which is our sister ship, a similar Galaxy class ship, which is having some technical malfunctions. We get there.
Not as big though.
Well, they're the same, aren't they?
There are control panels everywhere.
So there are less people on board, but I think it's the same model of ship. So the ships are the same size, but there are less crew.
There were 1,000 people on the other crew. Isn't that the same?
There were about 1,000 people, and on one previous ship, when a lot of people were infected with a disease in season 1, Geordi said there's about 3,000 people on the Enterprise.
What?
Huh.
No.
I remember numbers very specifically.
Interesting.
3,000 people on the Enterprise?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, with families and stuff.
Later, Jake will drop a proofreading note on this one because I'm interested in that.
Check.
Fact check, not proofreading. Okay. So the Yamato does have problems still. Yes, I guess it might not be the same size, but it's virtually the same complement. And so we see that they're having issues. We talked to, what's that captain's name? I remember that his first name was also Donald. Donald Varley. Captain Donald Varley, old friend of Captain Picard. And in the middle of the transmission, it gets very like the radio signal goes down, and I call it a radio signal because of like the fuzzy lines that appear. Another like 80s, 90s representation of a signal.
Yeah. Oh, you can't see me.
I imagine like the frame rate of the
demon colored. It was a great representation of a tech
of a VHS player malfunction.
Yeah. But who knows? Maybe we go back to VHS technology. I don't know. They have spaceships.
So we have a bad transmission, and then suddenly things go very wrong. The magnetic stabilizers decay, and the ship explodes. quite violently too. The saucer section just goes flying into space, and everybody is
Heals
killed
up.
instantly.
Yeah. It's meant to, I think, evoke like what would it look like if the Enterprise were to blow up.
Yes, and that's pretty frightening. And
Especially for Wesley.
yeah, well, everybody's kind of traumatized. And if the situation doesn't need to get any worse, the Romulans show up because we're in the neutral zone. What a great start to an episode. That was
Here's the thing about the neutral zone.
Uh-huh.
They're not very neutral. If we had chosen to defend the neutral zone, and we wouldn't have just destroyed one starship. Now you will leave. It's like, bitch, this zone is neutral. You can't tell me to leave. I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't get the naming either. Xander, is there a reason that everybody is allowed to be a dick in the neutral zone?
Yes. Well, you can think of it more of like a demilitarized zone. It's just the area in between where Romulan space starts and the Federation space starts. And so you can even mark it down further of like, okay, which side of the neutral zone are you closer to? And in this case, it seems like they were on the Romulan side of the neutral zone. And obviously they were having problems as well and thinking about what sort of sabotage could be happening right on their doorstep. So I get the thinking.
Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, essentially a parallel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus,
and
it's just a fun sort of place that we can go for adventure that's not like a planet.
Romulans, more like drama-ulans, am I right?
You're not wrong.
Romulans is great. We can call them Romulans.
And, you know,
It helps you fall asleep.
Yeah, Picard was being a Dromulan because Troy was like, "Sir, while we figure out what's wrong with our ship, should we maybe leave this demilitarized zone where we're about to get fired on by aggravating the Romulans?" And he's like, "Not till I figure something out. But just go."
Well,
You'd lose all stakes for the episode, but she did bring up the option. They did
also 2 minutes ago, a Federation starship exploded. Like they have
if
to like.
If they had just left, they would have definitely exploded because they wouldn't have had the clues to figure out where it was coming from or the source or anything.
Getting probed.
Right.
Well, they didn't know at that point that there was an issue that they were affected by, though.
Right.
It
Like
was
they
just
knew.
good captaining.
Well, he has to, like, his
intuition.
old friend just died. He has to investigate. You have to send a report. If he sends a report, be like, anyway, the Romulans were there, so we booked it. Pretty sure we ordered to go back. So,
we quickly figure out when he finds I won't do it. I won't call it what I was going to call it. An archaeological piece of technology from the Iconians in his personal log. What else was he doing with the personal log turned off with that thing, huh? I'm sorry. I did it. It looks like a dildo.
Oh.
That's
There's a lot of
very
things in the show.
Uncomfortable looking dildo, if that's
I know.
I know.
Like, put that down.
Yeah, it looks like a sonic screwdriver.
That's what they're called.
You can get that line at
the most advanced alien technology that they can't fathom is a sonic screwdriver.
Yeah.
Hypersonic screwdriver. So yeah. Well, so to explain, we meet Sub Commander Taurus, who's a Dromulan, and I like that designation, Becca, because before he does that investigation, we see the Romulan ship, and so many of the bad guys in Star Trek have such evil looking bridges. Like now that the Klingons, they're quote unquote, they're borderline good guy, bad guys right now. Even their stuff is very rigid and like metallic and mood lit and like only red lighting and stuff. But then we get to the Romulans and it's just so Spartan and cold in there. And they always had like this lighting. They're like, "Hello, Picard."
Yeah, and that's reminiscent from Romulan lighting and stuff from the 60s too.
Yeah, I just love how that trope carries over. Is like, well, if they're bad guys, they have bad lighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey.
Well, how else is the audience supposed to know?
What you're saying is clearly something that they had in mind, but I just want to disagree here that style is subjective, and I kind of like the minimalist look they got going on.
I think it's cool.
Red lighting?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm not saying
nice
it looks
choice.
bad.
Nice.
I'm saying it looks evil, and like they have to operate in that all the time.
Right. Or it's
evil
just how we're seeing
objective.
it. I had a thought like that too, like, oh, this is how we're seeing the bridge when it's in an emergency or when they're contacting us. We don't see it like day to day.
Okay, get the stuffed animals back in here. The
Put the
phone
plants away.
Yeah.
Animals.
It's
Little
just, like,
baby
rainbow
Romulan.
lighting.
Bring the cuddlies back in.
They have stuffed targs everywhere and stuff.
Aw, too cute.
So so then Picard does the scanning of the captain's log from the Yamato, and
Don't do it. It's the horror movie moment where you say, "Don't even look in his journal. It's cursed."
Well, he
What a
looks for
cool
keywords
search
only.
function.
He didn't do
Yeah.
like any personal stuff. That was a cool. I don't know. The nerd in me was like, "Wow, this search function is really effective and really
Right?
quick. I wish we could search like that."
Not only that, I felt like this is a really good moment to justify the personal logs and the captain's logs and everything like that. You see why we are getting tapped into them and why people say that, because it's so useful for people. Yeah.
It's a TikTok of what's going on, right? It's
Yes.
really nice to get that. And I know you think I'm talking about the app, but we used to call it like TikToks are also like the minute by minute reading of a thing, and like we see the
Wait,
most
what?
important things. Like reading back to
Rewind.
TikTok is the minute to minute updates of an event, right? So like
Oh, like
That's-
meeting minutes.
yeah, so we're
Read
getting
the old
the.
TikTok.
I mean, I don't think the phrase is coming back, but we can try.
Or they're just short videos that you watch on your phone.
Exactly. But like we get all the important information in a great way that is technically kind of just exposition of someone telling us, but it's a little more compelling in this narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Frank,
especially
look at
what
the
he's
thing in
holding.
his hands.
Yeah.
True. It was an unfathomable Iconian technology. So
Picard can't take his eyes away because he studied archaeology back in school.
have we mentioned this before?
I don't know. I wrote that down. I'm like, I think we might have touched that he might have had an interest in archaeology with interaction with one of the other guests that was on board. Like, I wanted to show you this thing I brought, and he was like, "Ooh, a dish." But I think this is the first time we're like, oh, he was like an archaeologist.
Mm-hmm.
Because he needed a new interest besides the French thing, doesn't like kids, and that's it.
Yeah, give him a positive thing
Yeah.
instead of being gruff.
Loves
Right.
bones.
Love bones.
Bones.
He digs
Well,
bones.
this is a bone of technology. What does it do? No one knows.
We also had a visit from Wesley talking about the death stuff, but I think this is the first time we see him order tea Earl Grey hot. Right?
It is. That's a good note. It is literally. It's not the first time he's drank Earl Grey tea, but it's the first time he does tea Earl Grey hot. Yes.
And then he
that's
turns to Wesley and he says, "Wesley, pardon me, did I order Earl Grey tea or a houseplant?"
It's a cactus. Did you see The Good Place? It's like a Janet malfunction of like, did you say cactus?
I was kind of expecting it to be like half a hot dog, half like a hammer or something.
It could have been anything, but
I know it
it
could have been. It's a complete houseplant. Yeah, but going back to what you were saying is Wesley was traumatized by the fact that another ship was just destroyed very quickly and all those people died. And I'm really glad that we didn't just brush past that very traumatic plot point, because we did in the beginning. We just kind of went straight to the Romulans, which is the more pressing thing because it's right now. But like, we should sit with the fact that a whole crew just was vaporized in space.
Well, that's why I think Wesley's such an important character, because that is to explain the military training like we got of why they didn't react, because it would have just been chaos and they wouldn't have gotten anything.
Everybody's
done.
like, ah!
Ah! Yeah.
So he didn't get into academy. So he hasn't gotten this training yet of how to mentally and emotionally compartmentalize, yet he's still working on the bridge.
He shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's an apprenticeship, but he's really skipping some
He has
steps.
important roles, and in the end of the episode, he's like in charge of putting shields up.
Shields
right?
up? Yeah, that should not have happened. That was some confused writing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Again,
but we gotta go back to school.
Yeah,
like this is a line that I think our podcast always rides, of like trying to figure out what should be happening in the Star Trek world versus remembering that this is a TV show where they want 7 principal actors to get a fair amount of screen time. So it's like, oh yeah.
Because the question I would pose to both of you then is, how, as a writer of this episode, how would you put Wesley into the story if not at the helm?
I mean, they've kind of it's a tough corner they've painted themselves into by not allowing him to be a full crew member. Therefore, he has to take unimportant roles in that way. But like, you put him in engineering. He's been an intern in engineering for half the season anyway, and have him help LaForge figure out the problems. Have him be in the turbo lift and get thrown around a little bit more. I'd like to see them conk heads. Maybe there's 2 people in the turbo lift.
Well, speaking of which, this was a great Geordi episode.
Yeah,
This
some
was
good
a, like,
running.
Right? A Geordi LaForge feature, like with all of the stunts plus the figuring out, saving the day type of thing. Like, he had a great episode.
That was a violent turbo lift ride. That was intense.
Yes. Absolutely.
He gets thrown everywhere, and even when it arrives on the bridge, he gets flung out of that thing.
Wait,
Right.
can we talk about rewind just a minute to the interaction over comms that happened? Captain, I think the probe was the problem and definitely infected the ship. Geordi, we're going to capture a probe and bring it on board. Goodbye. Don't ask me. I'm turning off my communicator.
Well, it was that it was malfunctioning, but essentially, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that, and then so LaForge, because the communication didn't work, had to run up. We see the inside of a turbo lift and him getting flung around. We see the ceiling of a turbo lift, which I don't know if you noticed, but I paused.
Oh.
They didn't really take good care of the top of the turbo lift. There's a bunch of like markings, and like I think the paint isn't finished on there. And you see really briefly, there's a bunch of just like scraps up there.
It was probably just like a white psych wall that they just built some.
I think there was like a last minute, like, we need a ceiling to throw him into.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's like the bottom of a submarine.
What's on the bottom of a submarine?
No, it just looked like it, or like the inside.
We don't
of a
know. We
submarine.
never see it.
Oh.
Mm.
I thought it was an old saying about the bottom of a submarine that I wasn't familiar with.
No, you saw it on the TikTok.
It's the TikTok of a submarine. Yeah, you get it.
What is real?
So now we have the discussion. So Picard calls a meeting. He wants a briefing immediately, or within 1 hour. And we figure out that, there must be some type of virus that we picked up, or some malfunctions. There's some reason this is all happening that's computer related. So we get the mainframe idea of the 90s, 80s, 90s computer asset architecture. What were you going to say?
I was going to say it's important to note, too, that multiple times it said it's all automated systems. This is all out of our control. It's something that we can't help. Because going back into further in the story, we'll find out the thing attacking them is actually an automated system. So this whole conflict is just a resolving of automated system after automated system and seeing beyond that.
Okay, hold on. Now there's a stark parallel to the problems with our current world, because Facebook AI created this situation of reposting fake everything, and now it's corrupted the system and there's no way to root it out, just like on board the Enterprise.
Well, I mean,
typing in private chat, Becca, stop it.
I am not. I'm actually, what I'm trying to find out is like whether this is a paradox or like a philosophical issue of like, as technology gets more advanced and becomes more automated, does it become actually more difficult in some ways for our processes to be fixed because we are no longer involved in the maintenance of them if they maintain themselves in some way? Does that make sense? Like,
Exactly.
I'm sure there is a thing for it.
That is the plot of The Matrix.
Whoever wrote the code no longer controls the code if the code can improve itself.
Yeah, exactly. So if they have a very limited skill, like if a computer only has like a limited like perception of what can be right and wrong, and doesn't notice if it's acting incorrectly, it doesn't know to fix itself, right?
Have you ever seen like, what is it, Alexa and I think Siri talking to each other?
yeah, that's a good example.
I've read about this in a book, how they create a new shorthand because they can
they can skip over ideas and create a common language.
Yeah.
They also like repeat words many times to denote how many of them there are, as opposed to creating a new word to denote that number. Super fascinating.
We go into this too in language creation, or the evolution of language, in Picard's studies as well of the Iconian gate.
Yeah, we'll get to it, but Data has like a very specific way of like, I took all of these words and got their context, and I've derived them from root words that are similar. And he starts listing them all out. And he got it wrong.
I had a point to make about
wrong.
About Data on. Never mind. on the previous topic, Data himself is such
Yep.
a manifestation of something godly because he can rewrite his own code to be better than he was before. And Dr. Soon created something incredible with Data. I mean, beyond the scope, he's not technology. He is a god. Period. That's my new theory, and I will look for more evidence to support this hypothesis.
Hold on to that theory, and then also consider Wesley Crusher. Just gonna say that. Hold on to that theory.
I mean, isn't it true? Because I know you're trying to compare them, Xander. I mean, wouldn't it be true that Data is therefore a life form, right? He's capable of evolving. Is kind of what we're getting to. But Becca, you're saying he's a god because he's so capable of evolving. He can evolve himself.
He doesn't evolve the way that artificial intelligence can self-learn, create self-learning and self-teaching. He evolves in a way that is always for the better because it has a moral compass in the way that AI does not. Therefore, he is more than AI, and he's a god. You're welcome.
Well, and that was created because of the environment that he was in. You know, it's a nature versus nurture. You could program something or program AI, but it's the experiences that Data has as a Starfleet officer that shape. I think we've talked about this before, of like, it's not just the physical data, it's the memories and the experiences that go around it.
Is there like an alternate universe Star Trek episode where Data was found by Romulans instead or something like that?
There is. I know there's a mirror universe for Next Gen that exists in comic form. I don't know exactly what the story is for that, but everyone's like ripped and they have midriff shirts.
I remember seeing one of those comics when I was a kid where they're fighting the Borg with the other Star Trek or with the other Enterprise crew. And like, I think Riker has like an eye patch.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got to read this so I could cosplay it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those. Well, regardless, if anybody's writing the fan fiction, now's the time because I mean, that's a great idea.
It sounds like a calling, Jake. Get it on that Data Romulan fan fiction that is never too late.
Yeah.
I just never considered that, but you mentioned that because nature versus nurture is a very valid thing. And if you're saying that like his learning is framed by like his experiences in Starfleet, I get that. That totally makes sense.
Jake, you're going to have to edit this out of everything. We can't put this episode online because we got to make this show. So you can't just give away good ideas like that.
There'll be a gap when this $1 million idea appears in the podcast.
That's right.
Yeah, I get that. Okay.
I'm just going to bleep it all.
Okay. So in the edit, you want me to have about 4 minutes of...
She's too powerful.
They should never have put this button on my mixer.
But if you just say TM, 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 now nobody can take it.
TM, 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 TM.
There you go.
That's the way Alexa would count 4 TMs.
So...
I don't know what that was for.
All right, so at some point we figure out that, there's still something on the planet that's left over. I'm not actually sure. I don't remember exactly how they found that. Did they just scan the planet and find it?
Yeah, well, the probe had launched from a specific place, and then when they looked at they traced it where it came from. What was odd was that they visually saw it before the sensors picked up, or Worf was waiting for an opportunity just to tell them that something was coming, because all of a sudden Riker's like, "What was that?" And then Worf was like, "They fired."
Everybody saw the flash of light, but Riker's like, "You guys see that?" Like, yes, we all saw that. That was very noticeable.
The sensors should have picked that up way before.
Is this the part when Geordi is like on the console and Data rips him off?
No, because
that's later.
We had to destroy the probe.
Right.
Once the probe was destroyed, then we had a place to go to. So Picard makes an away team, including himself. Big deal. Riker's like, we have to have a discussion about this, and then doesn't have a discussion about it. Right. Yeah. So we sort of have our A and B plot divergence there because we can catch up with the away team down on the planet, and we have the situation going on the Enterprise.
Mm-hmm. Which Wesley was still married by the same dilemma, right?
Yes.
Now, how is the Iconian civilization that hasn't been around in a very long time so advanced and then destroyed? Big question.
That's the great thing about Star Trek too, is that they constantly say there are civilizations that are way more advanced than us that have maybe moved on or destroyed themselves due to war or conflicts.
Imagine that scenario for humanity.
But this is also a very classic Trek scenario. I think a similar thing happens in original series, but it's a civilization that is dying or something like that, and they come across a similar gate.
They probably just found a party planet through their magical gate, and they were all like, "Hey, let's go here! Everything cleans itself up. It's
Right.
so wild. Love
It's
this
very
dimension."
likely. Yeah.
Okay, I
I
figured
mean,
it out.
the Iconians were destroyed from space, right? So like
That's the assumption.
whether they got away or not, we don't know. Yeah,
Right.
that's the assumption, right? So, but as Picard mentions, history is written by the conquerors or those who survive. So we were told that they were a warlike people, but we don't actually know that.
Yeah,
That's
and
so
even
true.
think the terminology that was used in that conversation with Wesley, he says, "Oh, so they were colonists," and Picard's like, "No, they were conquerors," and yet in our vernacular, those are the same thing. And the word colonist is a violent word.
I think that's pretty new. Like colonists has
Oh, yeah,
rarely
it's very
been.
much new for that to be our interpretation of it. But when we look back, anytime we'd called some society a colonist of an area, there were already indigenous peoples that were murdered when those people arrived.
That's correct. But also I wanted to say in this era, a colony is a space colony. So it's somebody that has gone out with their family to terraform a planet or be on the edge of where we're exploring. So a colonist in this sense would be, they're an isolated colony from civilization.
You bring up an interesting point, though, Becca. I wonder if the word colony will keep evolving out of that because, like, take for instance, if we ever build a moon base, we tend to have called them a moon colony, especially if it's like a new community of people, right?
Right.
But
And
it'll
in
be
relation
interesting
to
to see.
ants, it's still legit. It has. I just was pointing out that it has
Yeah.
evolved to become a sort of trigger warning kind of word because it's like, well, you're saying that a colonist is like, oh yeah, they showed up and they started a colony and they were peaceful, but
It
never
was
was the case.
assuming there's no sentient life forms that are currently living there.
Right, exactly. So it does make sense in relation to space travel on an uncolonized planet, unless the sand is sentient. Which
That's
we can-
happened.
I mean, we had sentient tar. We can have sentient sand.
Yeah.
No, the sparkly sand before the mean tar.
It was. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Speaking
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we send Picard and Worf and Data down to the planet, and then we start having malfunctions back on the Enterprise. It's getting worse. We're quote unquote sitting on a bomb, even, and the Romulans reappear, and they've come back and are nose to nose with us, and actually start
Wait,
to
they're
like
about
put
to
up their
fire. They're
weapons.
firing right now. Dude, they're firing right now.
They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. Raise the
Wait, never
shields.
mind.
I
Yeah.
think we're good.
No,
I think we're okay.
It was like a sneeze. It was like a sneeze war.
That was
And
like
they're
a mock execution, is what that was.
It was, and they're like,
Scary.
"Who put the intern on the shields button?"
Get him off of there. Yeah,
He's not
Wesley's
even
like,
in security as an
shields-
intern.
the shields aren't responding, and Riker's like, I need those shields now, Mr. Crusher. It's like,
Yeah.
do you think he entered his password in wrong? Like, he's not responding. Like, what are you going to do? Oh, well.
We do get to see little glimpses of things going wrong all over the ship too, and we do get to see Dr. Pulaski, who is
Oh, thank
just
God.
the best.
Oh, good. So glad.
I love her, and she's like, that old medicine, like a splint. Do that. Get your
I
hands
like how
dirty.
the science officer was like, what do you mean? It's like,
Yeah.
you don't know what stabilizing a limb is?
You practice
not
medicine with your
medicine.
head and your heart.
Yeah,
I just
My
waved
favorite-
this wand over it, and it's usually fine.
Yeah, my favorite though is the sad nurse that she's first berating when we cut down to her, and he just sits there, is like, I know. She walks away, and he goes, no.
I didn't notice that.
Crusher would never have left her staff so demoralized in a crisis situation. Just
But Pulaski gets it done. That's
This
what I'm
again
saying.
harkens
done
back.
the demoralization of the people that are working so hard.
Yes, because that's like her role. She is different from Crusher in this way. It very much harkened back to Bones again, because
Yes.
anytime there was an issue with the Enterprise, we'd go down to sick bay, and he'd be like, I can't handle it down here. There's too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And then she's doing the
I
same thing.
hate sick people.
I chose the wrong profession, damn it.
While we're cycling through favorites, though, we do get some solid O'Brien time as a transporter chief.
It was like the best 30 seconds of my day.
He had a great jawline at that angle with the lighting. I could see it.
It's always great.
Okay.
No more comments to add. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, I can't expand on his jawline too much. The reason I was bringing up Data throwing Geordi is because I don't know if you noticed Brent Spiner's reaction, but when he throws him, he gives this huge wince. He's like, "Ooh,
I did.
That looks like it hurt."
Yeah. I wrote down Data's reaction, and I was like, it was good, but yeah, it was totally a Brent Spiner thing.
I couldn't tell honestly if it was his genuine reaction to thinking the stunt guy, or if that was really LeVar Burton. I didn't catch it. Like didn't fall correctly or something like that. But then when they cut to the next shot, he also still has like a less dramatic wince. So it's like Data has a emotional reaction to this.
That's interesting because I was wondering about Data's emotional reactions and empathy to, of course, Geordi, because he has a history with Geordi, but he's the one that turns around in the very opening scene where the other ship is destroyed, and he reports that 1,000 people died. But like, how deeply does that affect? Does he genuinely have empathy for people he's never met, or because he knows that, of course, every life has value, or is it like, I don't know.
What,
I was
are
just
you putting him
curious
on
about
trial?
I guess so. I was just curious about, how it's such a tricky, how do you deliver that sort of line from Data? Because he is a machine, and so he's just delivering the information in a way where even a human wouldn't really take the time to process your reporting.
Yeah, no, that's valid.
Would. Yeah.
Like I feel that Brent Spiner and the writers do a pretty good job of letting him have some expressive reactions, because he is not a cold, dead robot the whole time, even though he does have those very stoic and straightforward moments. He I think that because they've given him this like quest of trying to become more human, he still emotes in a way that is empathetic, I guess. Like he always kind of gives
why you would have sadness at that.
Right. Well, from a character on a TV show standpoint, we need them to have a dramatic pause before they reveal that 1,000 people just died. There needs to be a weight to that moment, right? But there also needs to be the fact that Data would just report this straight up. So we marry that by having him try to be more communicative as a human in some way, or a humanoid, to like make sure that he can be social with his crewmates.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's how they band-aid it.
Yeah. Well, also I would want to say that this is earned for the audience too. This is another thing, is if you've been paying attention, Data was very robotic and stiff and unresponsive, and it has taken time for him to grow to be like this, and so it's justified for our like watching it in a serial sense that he would have reactions like, oh, he's getting it, he's almost there. And
it allows him to play the comedy just a little bit too, because when he wakes up after having been brought back to the Enterprise by Worf later in the episode, he kind of has like this curious happiness about it. He's like, how did I get back here?
Yeah.
Which makes it a little bit more fun, as opposed to like, oh, it's just another standard robot reaction, right?
Right.
Totally.
So we have some shenanigans with the Romulans. Meanwhile, Data
wait, but I want to just briefly, because Riker's taking over the bridge, and then
he's got a great quote.
Romulan lady, she's like there to fight, and then he says, destroy that probe, and she's like, I see how this could not be a trick on me in any way. Let me blow this up. But lots of other alien races wouldn't be as smart. We've seen them make decisions that are like, what's the trick? I can't trust you. And she's like, blow it up. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's the situation that they're both in. They've faced so much unknown with this virus attacking their systems. Like the Enterprise couldn't even fire on it if it wanted to. That was how dire the situation was. But fate protects fools, little children, and ships named Enterprise.
Nice. Did you write that down? I like that.
I did. That was what Riker said.
I like that.
Riker.
So, but meanwhile, on the surface of the planet, we're deciphering Iconian. And as we mentioned, Data goes, I think this is manual override.
Right.
Turns out not a manual override.
Whoops. It was Bonsai Buddy.
Opens a portal into a variety of places. A montage of pictures from your photos file.
Yeah, it's the default screensaver file.
It's default wallpapers. Is what it is. But yeah, so we figure out that, these guys the Iconians must have traveled. This is how they traveled freely, because we noticed that in their history, they weren't known for having space vessels. They just appeared in different civilizations or different points of space-time. And so that's probably explains their absence now, as they've gone
probably
elsewhere.
why they were beings of air and darkness.
Demons of air and darkness, right?
What?
Did he say demons or beings?
I don't know.
I don't remember. I would
Okay.
Either way, it's pretty badass.
I know. Demons of air. Maybe it was demons of air and light. What was it? Demons of air and darkness is what he calls them. And maybe if he said beings and I heard demons, I guess that's an internal thing for me.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I'm projecting a little bit.
Now or later?
Yeah, I have a demon thing.
It's very likely I wrote it down wrong. Chances are above 90%.
So we have these kind of like false climaxes again, which Star Trek kind of needs to do once in a while, which is just
don't make us.
False climax is a new piece of Iconian technology.
Yeah, check the TikTok.
But what I mean by false climax is like we need like an exciting confrontation to have. So the best we can do is like have Data verbally explain, or have Picard verbally explain what he's physically doing to Data, who then gives him sporadic answers.
Right.
Like that
this is like an escape room scene, but
escape room.
Yeah, had to like put on a blindfold halfway through or something. And they're like, I knew the answer. It was great.
So,
I thought it was a fun challenge.
Yeah, Data gets zapped by a ball of blue light, and then he's like, "I can't move or talk. Must blow up. Can't see." And so Picard has to, follow blindfolded. It's like Two Rooms and a Boom, or that escape room. Yeah. The one where one person has to move levers, but they don't know which levers, and it's like connect the red wire.
Exactly. It's like diffusing a bomb. They even use the colors, the red, the blue, and amber.
Blue.
Keep talking and nobody explodes. That's what it's called.
Yeah. We got rid of the word yellow, I guess, and everything is amber now, like the color of your energy.
Oh.
It felt a little. It just like it was fine as an escape room, but I'd rather be playing it than watching it because like it wasn't very dramatic for me, even though I knew they were gonna potentially explode.
But this was living vicariously.
Do you think it was cool that the most advanced civilization, all their computer buttons were just 3 colors?
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need.
Maybe they only see in 3 colors. Who knows?
Listen, all you have are sciences, command, and engineering. 3 colors.
Did you expect them to be just a bunch of levers that looked like dildos? Like, what did you expect of their technology?
Yeah.
I mean, what if a little child stumbles into this room and he's like, my favorite color is blue, 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 blue. The planet explodes.
Maybe that's what happened to them.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like, do we want to start orbital bombardment? It's red, red, red if we do that.
Yeah.
Well, thank goodness that fools are protected under the fate clause
and
of
little
the
children
Federation.
and ships named Enterprise.
I mean, there were some like dangerous actions taken too, because they were like, we need to go through the portal, because when Data is incapacitated, thank you, incapacitated, we noticed that also the Enterprise is appearing on the doors as well, and it's like, Worf, you can take him there. And Worf's like, well, we don't know if it's a gateway, and Picard goes, well, that'll be the test. It's like,
hey, you're a Klingon. I heard on Klingon ships, they sacrifice themselves for their captain, which he essentially asks Worf to do. It's intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sir, we don't know if this is really a gate or if I will be vaporized.
Right.
We'll find out.
Right. I wanted it to be like a glass window, so you just like, oh, not a gate.
The plan. It's
I just wanted to do appear at the Anaheim Convention Center.
Yeah. That'd be great. He was waiting for the gate to change because it's kind of like a 3-second timer slideshow. And as soon as it changed to the Enterprise, he takes 2 of the 3 seconds before it changes again to give a smolder over his shoulder to say goodbye to Picard, maybe forever.
I thought he was going to die.
I was saying the same thing. I was like, go right now. Yeah. It's going to switch to something else.
No time to smolder.
Yeah.
He did the same thing like in season 1 when we were going to blow up the Enterprise too. Remember? He was like, okay, at this exact moment, you got to press the button. He's like, okay. And then he gives a dramatic look over his shoulder. He's like, now.
Because that's acting.
Acting. It is. Go ahead, Becca. Or go ahead, Xander.
I was going to say blame the director for that, because they're only doing what they're being told to do.
Again, we're crossing that line of like we still have to have a dramatic TV show and exist in this very specific sci-fi world. So we have to like do our best to Band-Aid that together. Yeah. And then we get Data back. But in a very dramatic turn that only lasts for a few seconds, Geordi's looking over Data with his tricorder, and then we get this beep.
Is that his heart rate monitor?
No, what was that? Not only also in real life, I've learned that heartbeat monitors don't make that sound when people stop. Like even on TV, that's always been the trope, right? But then we've suddenly just replicated it here for Data.
Wait, they don't?
They made that noise. There was. You mean in real life?
Like, in real life, in a hospital. I thought somebody's heart flatlines.
When someone codes, there's like an alarm that goes off
It'll trigger off systems. But it's not gonna.
You also don't want like one repeated tone interrupting people's conversation who are trying to probably communicate what they need to do.
Just do the podcast while I do this, please.
Yeah. I can add it. I'll repeat that and loop it.
Great. But this is, again, we've said this before, Star Trek is taking on tropes of different shows, so that's the medical drama of it.
Yes. Yeah. I just like how heavy-handed that one was. That was
like every medical drama, someone who's just been announced dead immediately comes back to life.
Yeah! He came back to life so quick. It's like, okay, well, resolved that one pretty easily.
Well, it turns out
figure out what his factory reset looks like, so we stop proclaiming him as dead.
Yeah.
It was just a factory reset. We
find out that the positronic brain is the Deus Ex Machina. So it was all Data resetting that we learned how to do it and go back to the previous boot.
Which is, is it just a save point? Like, I
think so.
What are those called? Like the
boot hard disk?
It's called my show on Geek and Sundry on Thursday.
Yeah.
Where every week we go back to a previous version of Becca's computer.
Yeah. Really fun. We dive deep in that hard drive. I would like to submit as evidence that Data is a god. It is the Data Ex Machina of the episode.
Well, good callback.
Thank you.
Very nice.
I mean, it's going to be a thing every week now.
Well, so they watch Data go through this process, Riker and LaForge do, and they figure out what needs to happen. They both run off in different directions, and Data's like, well, can I help?
Of course,
that was great.
Delete the files that are corrupting the system. Wow. Remove Bonsai Buddy.
There we go. Yeah.
And we share this information with the Romulans, and we get Picard. Picard actually has to self-destruct the base down below and then has to jump through the portal, but he only has time to get on board the Romulan ship.
And we get this good...
Cool.
We get a good connection moment where the Romulans could have just fired and should have just fired, and but we see this connection in the trenches of both ships are going down, and so we'll just see what happens.
Be pleased to have you go with us.
Picard prevented himself from being immediately phaser stunned by standing still, not reaching for his phaser, hands down at his sides, making direct eye contact with the co-commander. I don't know what's she called. Subcommander.
Co-commander like implies there's someone else.
Yeah, also commander.
Yeah, that's great. No, I love it.
Baby commander. Commander Taurus.
Baby one.
Assistant commander.
Not fair. She should be promoted. Promoted for that sass and those shoulders and those eyebrows.
And we save her. We leave her alive to become an antagonist later, perhaps. Actually, I don't
know. Not before she says, well, at least if we're going to die, I'll have the pleasure of knowing you're dying with us.
And, we get the beam over just in time in that classic Star Trek way, just out of danger, potentially. But we see Riker actually interrupt and belay an order from the captain, which normally it would be a reversal, because the captain would have been the one that stayed on the ship and would be like, oh, we must destroy it, and Riker would be the one, actually, I have some information from the away team, and we get this role reversal. So that was a cool moment.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's a good point.
Yeah, and he even makes a joking point of so what's happened here? What did I miss?
And Riker is so pissed. He's like, you're acting like you did all the hard work. You have no idea what I've been through.
We've had control panels everywhere. Where have you been? Well, that was Contagion. That was fine. It was. I liked that episode. Yeah,
it had a strong moral lesson, which is always back up your hard drive.
There it is.
All right, for all the listeners. You should be able to do that right now after this broadcast.
Yeah. I did make a note. It was a good mystery that involved the full ensemble, and there was danger to the Enterprise because potentially it was happening to us. But this was a time where we were all working together, and we got to see everyone firing on all their cylinders and solving the mystery together.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Troy was very much aware that there was a high level of anxiety on the ship.
Oh yeah,
I
she
love
was prepping.
Troy. It's just I don't know if her position's that useful, but she does it so well.
I mean, she is very useful in terms of like revealing the enemy's hand, like pretty often. Well, not even the enemies, the other party's hand, right?
Right, seeing the truth.
Yeah. Well, that was Contagion. 1 second, I got a lot of sirens.
Oh, it's the Romulans.
We can't really hear them.
Yeah, but this can hear them. Yeah, I mean the broadcast.
You gotta get out of the
podcast.
You're in the neutral zone. You gotta get out of there.
Get out of there.
Los Angeles, the neutral zone. Okay. But our next episode is The Royale. The Enterprise investigates.
With cheese. Sorry, what?
That's fine. Yeah, the Enterprise discovers a French delicatessen with a similar sounding hamburger.
Wait, really?
No. The Royale. The Enterprise investigates the wreckage of a 21st century Earth spaceship orbiting a distant planet and the appearance of a casino.
Ooh.
Now that actually is the description of it. There is a casino involved in the next episode.
Okay, then there's definitely a lot of burgers because what do you need? Every type of restaurant in a casino.
Well, let's end the episode how we end every episode, which is how we would order our burger. Medium rare. See you later.
Bye.